All right, good. So in the physical therapy clinic I work in Tula in New York City, I see a lot of older folks. Right, more than half my caseload is older patients, and the bulk of them have issues with balance on some degree. So we're just going to run through some basic stepping patterns that you can apply for your balance. You can practice at any time during the day. You don't have to set aside 10 minutes specifically for balance, but I encourage people to practice because really it's the only way that you're going to keep the brain connected to these neurons, these proprioceptors that are gradually deteriorating in all of us. Once we're hitting past 20, 30 years old, these cells are gradually dying off in our body. So in order to improve our balance effectively, we have to rely on the plasticity of our brains, right? So focused attention is the key. The basic principle I want you to appreciate is that you have a center of gravity and you have a base of support, right? So that's your foot. If your center of gravity is way over here or all over the place, it's going to be a problem in terms of finding your balance. Right? So this other idea is that balance is dynamic as opposed to static. People tend to think that they're supposed to stand there and then they get really tense. Right? So like one of the masters said, you don't get to keep your balance, you must find it. Right? So we're just going to start by doing a little bit of a weight shift and feel that you could settle your weight over that leg. So maybe you go 70, 80, 90% of your weight into that leg. And just kind of be loose in that position for just a few moments, and then slowly shift yourself over to the other side and settle your weight. And what we're looking to find is what we would call the center of your foot, right? So, but the center of your foot, really, I wouldn't necessarily say it exists in such a physical sense, but if you were going to think of it in terms of the skeleton, it's like right under the ankle, right? So you can create a little imaginary hollow space. But it's important to be able to sense the different parts of the foot, in particular the heel, the ball of the foot, and the fourth and fifth metatarsal head, right? So those are the knuckle bones at the base of the pinky toe and the fourth toe. So taken together, you can think of those 3 points as a tripod, and you want your balance to be able to work with that. So you can see that I'm turning a little bit. So if I wanted to, I could think of using rotation of my center to facilitate some of the movement. I also actually think of sort of pulling into the ground, right? So I kind of create this feeling of a tension quality. So this leg starts to really feel rooted, and this one just feels like it's ready to lift. But don't get too carried away with things like that, because inevitably people will become a little too tense and they use too much muscular effort, right? The more tense you are, it lifts your center, right? And then your balance is essentially going to go kaput. Right, so I could rotate and I could go side to side, and that's going to put me over my center. All right, so next thing we have is called the empty step. Right, so with the empty step, I keep my center essentially still so that I don't shift forward as I take the step. So I can have a step in any direction. Right, I could do a circle, could do whatever. I could lift lift my leg, but we just do this simple empty step a few times, then you switch. Get your center over the base. Out to the side. Right, so after the empty step, we go into simple weight shift. So with this weight shift, I'm going to lift my heel. Right, because I'm going to transition this into a stepping pattern in a moment. So I shift my weight and I slightly turn. Right, I keep my hips and my shoulders in the image of a rectangle. Right, so that kind of keep them in the same plane. If you start to twist the rectangle, it's like you're twisting in the middle of your back, your thoracic spine. Those muscles become tense, and then that starts to affect balance. So the rotation that occurs is occurring through the hip joint, right? So you feel the crease of the hip as you turn. All right, so I could take a step back, could start to go into some sidestepping. And as I sidestep, it's an empty step, and then I shift the weight. Empty step. Right? It's always an empty step. Right? What this guy Moshe Feldenkrais would call this is it's an action that is reversible. Right? So if there's reversibility in any action, then it's well organized. Right? So if I'm just falling onto the foot, I can't really very well go back the other way. So empty step basically gives you that option to have what we would call in Tai Chi central equilibrium. All right, so moving to forward, right, just a rocking step. This is going to be more like walking, right, preparing to take a step. So weight shift, and then I'm going to take an empty step. All right, so I'll weight shift once, twice, empty step. Find your balance. Don't be in a rush, right? You could go really slow where you just hang out here and just settle your weight, sink your chi, relax. Sink your chi, find your center over the center of your foot, and then take the step, right? So you're always practicing finding your balance. Going backwards, I'm going to lift the heel of my forward leg, and I want to feel like my leg is connected all the way up to my head, right? So it's as if the spine is going to lift my leg, right? So I'm not just lifting a leg that's dangling from my hip, right? So the other thing I'm thinking of is that my legs are connected, right? So as my back leg becomes full, I focus on the empty leg, and that gives me a sense that things are connected, right? If I have that sense of connection, my balance is much better. Good, almost fell into the mulch. We'll stop there for balance. Thank you very much. Practice, that's the key.